Howdy there, folks. Welcome to Marty Mar News, the only news show that's sweeter than a pecan pie on the 4th of July. I'm your host, Marty Mar, coming at you live from the heart of the South, where the tea is strong, the accents are stronger, and the news is always good for a chuckle. Now, you might be wondering, Marty Mar, why you always so chipper? Don't you know the world's gone plumb crazy? Well, let me tell you. Life's too short to be walking around with a frown on your face looking like you sucked on a lemon. That's why I'm here to share some good old-fashioned Southern charm and a whole heap of laughs with y'all. So grab yourself a glass of sweet tea, settle in, and get ready for some news that'll tickle your funny bone. Now, before we get started, I gotta give a shout out to all y'all fine folks who've already subscribed to my channel. You're the reason I put on my best boots and shine up my belt buckle every week. And for those of you who are new to these parts, well, pull up a chair and make yourselves at home. I guarantee you'll be laughing till your sides hurt. We got a whole passel of funny news stories lined up for you today, folks. From mischievous critters causing a ruckus to folks saying the darndest things, we got it all. So, sit back, relax, and let me be your guide to the lighter side of life. Remember, here at Marty Mar News, we believe that laughter is the best medicine. And trust me, after a dose of our show, you'll be feeling finer than a frog in a fly farm. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Well, folks, our first story comes straight out of Yazoo City, Mississippi, where a fella by the name of Cletus Higgins woke up to find all his moon pies missing. Now that's a tragedy right there, I tell you. Moon pies are practically a food group down here in the South. Cletus, bless his heart. He was so torn up about his missing moon pies that he called the sheriff's office. Yep, you heard that right, the sheriff's office. Seems Cletus had a hankering for those marshmallowy chocolatey treats, and he was determined to get to the bottom of this culinary crime. The sheriff, a good old boy named Bubba, he listened patiently to Cletus's story. Now Bubba, he's used to dealing with all sorts of crazy stuff, but even he had to chuckle at this one. But being the upstanding officer of the law that he is, Bubba promised Cletus he'd do everything he could to crack the case. Now, I don't want to give away too much, folks, but rumor has it, the culprit might just be a certain four-legged critter with a sweet tooth and a nose for trouble. Stay tuned for updates on this developing story. Now, for our next story, we head on over to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where a plucky little possum decided to take a stroll through the local Walmart. That's right, folks, a possum, shopping for groceries, or maybe just looking for a free ride in someone's shopping cart. Witnesses say the possum, which they affectionately nicknamed Wally, seemed completely unfazed by all the commotion. He just sauntered down the aisles, checking out the merchandise like he owned the place. I reckon he was looking for some good deals on possum chow. One lady, bless her heart, nearly fainted when she saw Wally peeking out from behind a display of paper towels. But most folks just laughed and whipped out their phones to capture the moment for posterity. I tell you, you can't make this stuff up. Eventually, animal control arrived and escorted Wally back to the great outdoors. But not before he became a local legend and a testament to the fact that even in the hustle and bustle of modern life, nature always finds a way to surprise us. Hold on to your hats, folks, because our next story is a real doozy. It comes to us from the sunny shores of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where a mischievous squirrel caused quite a stir at the local senior center. Seems this little fella, let's call him Scooter, managed to sneak into the senior center through an open window. Now, Scooter wasn't content with just nibbling on crumbs and snoozing in a corner. Oh no, this squirrel was looking for adventure. First, he made a beeline for the bingo game, sending bingo balls flying and little old ladies jumping out of their seats. Then, he decided to take a joyride on the back of Mr. Jenkins' wheelchair, much to the amusement of the other seniors. The staff at the senior center, bless their hearts. They tried their darndest to catch Scooter, but he was just too quick for them. He was like a furry little ninja, darting this way and that. leaving a trail of laughter and chaos in his wake. Now, y'all know I love a good beauty pageant. It's a celebration of Southern grace and charm with a whole lot of hairspray thrown in for good measure. But even the most well-rehearsed pageants can have their share of unexpected moments, as we'll see in our next story. We head over to Dallas, Texas, where the Miss Cottonwood County pageant was in full swing. The contestants, all dolled up in their finest gowns, were strutting their stuff on stage, answering questions with poise and grace. That is, until little Miss Tiffany tripped on her own train and took a tumble right in front of the judges' table. Now, most folks would be mortified, but not Tiffany. She popped right back up, flashed a radiant smile, and said, "Well, bless my heart, I guess that's what I get for trying to walk in these heels." The audience erupted in laughter and applause, and Tiffany went on to win the Miss Congeniality Award. It just goes to show you, folks, that sometimes the best way to handle a mishap is to just laugh it off and keep on smiling. Hold on to your hats, folks, because our next story is a real head-scratcher. It seems we have a watermelon thief on our hands in the small town of Possum Trot, Alabama. Now, Possum Trot is known for its juicy, sweet watermelons. Every summer they hold a big old watermelon festival with seed spitting contests, watermelon eating contests, and all sorts of other shenanigans. But this year, someone's been pilfering the prize-winning watermelons right out of folks' gardens. The culprit, who the locals have dubbed the Phantom Melon Pincher, has struck under the cover of darkness, leaving no trace except for a few telltale footprints and a whole lot of disappointed gardeners. The sheriff, a fella by the name of Clem, is baffled. He's never seen anything like it in all his years of law enforcement. Theories abound about the identity of the Phantom Melon Pincher. Some folks say it's a rival town trying to sabotage Possum Trot's Watermelon Festival. Others whisper that it's the work of a band of rogue raccoons with a taste for the finer things in life. Whatever the truth may be, the folks of Possum Trot are determined to catch the culprit and bring their watermelons home. Well, folks, we've had ourselves a rootin' tootin' good time here today on Marty Mar News, haven't we? From missing moon pies to possums on parade, we've covered it all. And you know what? It just goes to show you that life down here in the South is never dull. We may not have all the fancy things they got up north, but we got something special down here. We got charm, we got hospitality, and we got a whole lot of heart. We know how to laugh at ourselves, and we know how to make the best of any situation. So next time you're feeling down, just remember the stories you heard here today. Remember the possum who braved the aisles of Walmart, the squirrel who livened up the senior center, and the beauty queen who took a tumble with grace and humor. And remember, folks, life is too short to be anything but happy. Get our done. Well, folks, our next story takes us to the mean streets of Atlanta, Georgia, where a pot-bellied pig named Petunia decided to take the law into her own trotters. Seems Petunia got a hankering for freedom and made a daring escape from her backyard pen. Now, Petunia didn't just amble down the sidewalk. No, sir. This little piggy went hog wild, charging right into rush hour traffic on Peachtree Street. Can you imagine the look on those city slickers' faces when they saw a pig in a pink tutu hogging the fast lane? Of course, chaos ensued. Cars were swerving, horns were honking, and I reckon a few folks even called their therapist right then and there. The poor traffic reporter on the news, bless his heart, he could barely get the words out. He kept saying, "I've reported on gridlock before, but never piglock." Luckily, Petunia's joyride didn't last long. Animal control officers managed to wrangle her with a trail of jelly donuts, her favorite treat. And let me tell you, folks, that's a sight I'd pay good money to see. Now, y'all know I love a good mystery, and this next story, coming to us from the quaint little town of Mayberry, North Carolina, is a real humdinger. It involves a sweet old grandma, a blue ribbon winning jam recipe, and a whole lot of suspicion. Seems like every year at the Mayberry County Fair, Granny Smith takes home the top prize for her famous blackberry jam. Folks line up for hours to get a taste of that sweet, tangy goodness. Why, it's been said that Granny's jam could cure what ails you, from a broken heart to a bad case of the Mondays. But this year, tragedy struck. Just days before the fair, Granny discovered that her secret stash of jam, the one she was saving for the competition, had vanished, gone, disappeared into thin air. Now suspicions immediately fell on Old Man Withers, Granny's next-door neighbor and arch-rival in the jam-making department. Word on the street is, Old Man Withers has been trying to steal Granny's recipe for years, but to no avail. Could this be his most dastardly deed yet? Now, folks, I've seen and heard a lot of things in my day, but this next story, coming to us from the swamps of Louisiana, really takes the biscuit. It involves a talking parrot, a missing lottery ticket, and a whole lot of Cajun intrigue. Seems like down in the bayou there's this old fella named Pierre who lives with his pet parrot, Coco. Now, Coco ain't your average bird. This feathered friend has a knack for mimicry and can repeat just about anything he hears, from Cajun curses to the latest lottery numbers. Well, one day Pierre buys himself a lottery ticket, dreaming of winning big and finally buying that shrimping boat he's always wanted. He hides the ticket in his lucky gumbo pot, figuring it's the safest place in the world. But wouldn't you know it, the next day the lottery numbers are called and Pierre realizes he's holding the winning ticket. Or at least he thought he was. The ticket is gone, vanished, and the only witness is Coco, who keeps squawking, "Pick six, pick six." Y'all know what they say, folks. Dogs are man's best friend, and that's especially true down here in the South, where we treat our four-legged companions like family. But even the best-behaved pups can get into their share of mischief, especially when the dog days of summer roll around. Take, for instance, the case of Buddy, a lovable Labrador retriever from Birmingham, Alabama. Now, Buddy's a good boy most of the time, but when the temperatures soar and the humidity starts to rise, well, that's when Buddy's inner prankster comes out to play. One scorcher of an afternoon, Buddy's owners decided to throw a barbecue for their neighbors. They spent all day grilling burgers, shucking corn, and baking pies, getting everything ready for the big shindig. But just when they thought they had everything under control, Buddy made his move. He snuck up to the picnic table, snatched a whole string of sausages right off the grill, and hightailed it into the woods. Now, folks, we've had our fair share of animal antics today, but this next story takes the cake. It seems we have a real-life cat burglar on our hands, and I'm not talking about a fella in a striped shirt and a mask. Down in Charleston, South Carolina, residents of a quiet, historic neighborhood have been reporting a string of peculiar robberies. It seems someone or something has been making off with their most prized possessions. But here's the catch. It ain't money or electronics these thieves are after. No, sir, it's shiny trinkets, sparkly jewelry, and anything that glitters. One lady woke up to find her grandmother's pearl necklace missing, while another fella had his entire collection of Elvis Presley belt buckles cleaned out. The police, bless their hearts, were stumped. There was no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. It was like the culprit vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but a faint whiff of tuna and a few stray cat hairs. Well, folks, we've had ourselves a rip-roaring good time here today on Marty Mar News, ain't we? From pigs stopping traffic to cat burglars with a taste for bling, we've seen it all. And you know what? It just goes to show you, life's full of surprises, especially when you live in the South. Now, I may be just a simple country boy, but I've learned a thing or two over the years. And one of those things is this: always be prepared for the unexpected. Because you never know when a pig might decide to go for a joyride, or when your prize-winning jam recipe might up and disappear. But more importantly, folks, never forget to laugh. Life's too short to take things too seriously. So, next time you're feeling stressed or down in the dumps, just remember the stories you heard here today. Remember the dog who stole the sausages, the parrot who knew the lottery numbers, and the cat burglar with a penchant for bling. And remember, folks, sometimes the best thing you can do is just shake your head, chuckle, and say, "Well, bless my heart, only in the South." Well, folks, gather round and let me tell you about a right fine mess that happened down in Mobile, Alabama. Seems like a mischievous little skunk decided to hold a yoga class hostage. Now picture this. A group of folks, all dressed in their stretchy pants, are trying to find their inner peace in a peaceful outdoor yoga session. Birds are chirping, the sun's shining, and everybody's breathing deep, trying to touch their toes. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this little black and white critter comes waddling in, lifts its tail, and lets out a toot that would make a billy goat blush. I'm talking a smell that could knock you off your feet. Well, let me tell you, those yogis went from downward dog to running for the hills faster than you can say namaste. Folks were tripping over their yoga mats, jumping into the nearest swimming pool, anything to escape that pungent aroma. Now this next story is a real knee-slapper, folks. It comes to us from the fine folks over at the Lost and Found department of the Dollywood Theme Park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Every day, folks lose all sorts of things at Dollywood: hats, sunglasses, even the occasional wig after a wild ride on the lightning rod roller coaster. But nothing could prepare those Lost and Found workers for what they found in the men's restroom. There, sitting on the sink looking for all the world like a pair of pearly white chiclets, was a set of dentures. Now these weren't your ordinary dentures, mind you. These babies were bedazzled. That's right, folks, covered in rhinestones and glitter, just like a pair of cowboy boots at a rodeo. The Lost and Found folks, bless their hearts, they posted a picture of those sparkly chompers on social media, hoping to reunite them with their rightful owner. And let me tell you, the internet went wild. Folks were guessing who those teeth belonged to, with Dolly Parton herself being a prime suspect. Now y'all know I love a good animal story, and this next one is a real doozy. It seems like down in Miami, Florida, a flock of flamingos decided to take a page out of the Fashion Police Handbook and started confiscating tourists' fanny packs. That's right, folks. These feathered fashionistas were on a mission to rid the world of those unsightly pouches that folks insist on wearing around their waists. And they weren't afraid to get up close and personal to do it. Tourists were running for cover as these pink bandits swooped down, their long necks darting out to snatch those fanny packs right off their hips. I reckon those flamingos had good taste, though, because they seemed to prefer the ones with the most sequins and fringe. The park rangers, bless their hearts, tried everything to stop those fashion-forward flamingos, but nothing seemed to work. Turns out those birds had developed a taste for the salt and vinegar chips that folks often kept in their fanny packs. Who knew those pink devils had such refined palates? Now y'all know that we Southerners pride ourselves on our hospitality. We're always happy to welcome folks into our homes, feed them a good meal, and make them feel like family. But there are a few unwritten rules of Southern hospitality that every visitor should know. First and foremost, never ever refuse a glass of sweet tea. It's practically an insult down here, and don't even think about saying no to a slice of pecan pie. We'll think you're crazy. Another important rule, be prepared to talk. We Southerners love to chat, whether it's about the weather, the latest gossip, or the best way to cook a pot of collard greens. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. And finally, remember that Southern hospitality is all about making folks feel welcome and comfortable. So kick off your shoes, stay a while, and let us treat you to some good old-fashioned Southern charm. Well, folks, hold on to your hats because this next story is a real head-scratcher. Seems like down in New Orleans, a certain porcelain throne decided to take up singing. That's right, folks, not content with its usual flushing duties, this particular toilet started belting out tunes at all hours of the day and night. And it wasn't just any tunes, mind you. This toilet had a penchant for opera. Residents of the French Quarter apartment building where this musical commode resided were both baffled and amused. Some folks swore they heard it singing La Cucaracha, while others insisted it was belting out Figaro. Figaro, plumbers, bless their hearts, were called in to investigate, but they couldn't find anything wrong with the pipes or the fixtures. The toilet, it seemed, was just a natural-born performer. Well, folks, we've had ourselves a rip-roaring good time here today on Marty Mar News, ain't we? From skunks disrupting yoga classes to toilets with a penchant for opera, we've seen it all. And you know what? It just goes to show you that life's full of surprises, especially when you live in the South. Down here, we know how to find the humor in everyday situations. We know that sometimes you just gotta shake your head, laugh, and say, well, bless your heart. So, the next time you're feeling stressed or down in the dumps, just remember the stories you heard here today. Remember the flamingos with a taste for fashion, the bedazzled dentures, and the singing toilet. And remember, folks, life's too short to be anything but happy. Get our done. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this next story is going to make you want to steer clear of any body of water bigger than a bathtub. We're heading down to the swamps of Louisiana, where a mischievous gator named Gumbo decided to take a little vacation from his usual haunt. Now, Gumbo, he's a big old fella, must be at least 12 feet long, with a smile that could give a fella the shivers. One scorching summer afternoon, Gumbo decided he'd had enough of swamp life. Those mosquitoes were biting, the water was getting a mite too warm for his liking, and he was plumb tuckered out from chasing nutria. So Gumbo did what any sensible gator would do. He packed his bags, not really, 'cause you know, no thumbs, and hightailed it out of there. Now, I don't know how he did it, but somehow Gumbo managed to cross highways, dodge traffic, and end up on a golf course. Can you imagine those golfers' faces, folks, when they looked up from their putts and saw Gumbo grinning at them from the edge of the green? I reckon a few of them thought they'd had one too many mint juleps. Now this next story is a real heartwarmer, folks. Proof that love can bloom anywhere, even amidst the spin cycle and the smell of fabric softener. We're heading over to Memphis, Tennessee, where a lonely sock and a missing mitten found their perfect match in the most unlikely of places, the local laundromat. Seems a fella by the name of Earl was doing his weekly laundry when he noticed something peculiar. There, stuck to the side of a dryer, was a bright red sock looking for all the world like it was searching for its other half. Now Earl, he's a kind soul, always willing to lend a helping hand or sock. So he decided to take that lonely sock home with him, figuring he'd reunite it with its mate someday. A few weeks later, Earl was back at the laundromat when he spotted another lost soul, a single blue mitten, looking just as forlorn as that red sock. Well, Earl, being the matchmaker that he is, knew just what to do. Hold your horses, folks, and grab your 10-gallon hats because we're heading down to the county fair in Amarillo, Texas, where the annual squirrel rodeo is about to begin. Now I know what you're thinking. Squirrels riding something? Those little fellas are fast, they're agile, but rodeo stars? Well, let me tell you, folks, down here in the South, we don't let a little thing like size stop us from having a good time. Every year, folks from miles around gather for the squirrel rodeo, where these furry little daredevils show off their riding skills on the backs of specially trained Jack Russell Terriers. It's a sight to behold, folks. The crowd goes wild as the squirrels hold on for dear life, trying to stay atop those rambunctious pups. There's bucking, there's weaving, there's even the occasional mid-air somersault. Now y'all know that we Southerners take our food seriously. We believe in cooking from scratch, using fresh local ingredients, and adding a whole lot of love to every dish. And let me tell you folks, there ain't nothing better than a Southern home-cooked meal. Whether it's fried chicken and gravy, shrimp and grits, or a big old pot of gumbo, our food is guaranteed to stick to your ribs and warm your heart. Now, I could talk about Southern cooking all day long, but today, I'm going to share with you a few of my all-time favorite dishes. First up, we got fried chicken. Now I'm talking about crispy, juicy, golden brown fried chicken that'll make you want to slap your mama. The secret to good fried chicken is all in the seasoning and the frying. You got to season that chicken just right with a blend of salt, pepper, paprika, and a few other secret ingredients that I'm not going to tell you about. Now, this next story is a real culinary crime, folks. It seems like down in Charleston, South Carolina, someone's been stealing grits. That's right, folks, grits. Those creamy, buttery Southern breakfast staples are disappearing from kitchens all over town. And the police, bless their hearts, are baffled. It all started with a few reports of empty grits pots on the stove. Folks thought maybe they'd just forgotten to buy more grits, or maybe their spouses were eating them in the middle of the night. But then, the reports started pouring in. Grits bandits were on the loose. Some folks even claimed to have seen a shadowy figure wearing a ski mask and carrying a giant soup ladle, making off with their grits in the dead of night. Well, folks, we've come to the end of another rootin' tootin' episode of Marty Mar News. We've had ourselves a grand old time, ain't we? We've laughed, we've cried, well, maybe not cried, but we came close. And we've learned a thing or two about life down here in the heart of the South. From gators on the golf course to grits bandits on the loose, we've covered it all. And through it all, we've learned that life's too short to be anything but happy. So, the next time you're feeling down, just remember the stories you heard here today. Remember the sock and the mitten who found love in the laundromat, the squirrels who braved the rodeo, and the grits that mysteriously vanished into thin air. And remember, folks, no matter where life takes you, always hold on to your sense of humor, your love of good food, and your Southern hospitality. And most importantly, always remember to get our done. Well, folks, as the sun sets on another rootin' tootin' episode of Marty Mar News, it's time for this old boy to hang up his hat and polish his boots. But before I go, I want to take a minute to reflect on the stories we shared and the lessons we learned. You see, folks, life down here in the South ain't always easy. We got our share of trials and tribulations just like everyone else. But through it all, we managed to hold on to our sense of humor. We find the funny side of things, even when life throws us a curveball. Because down here we know that laughter is the best medicine. It's what keeps us going when times get tough. It's what brings us together as a community. And it's what makes life worth living. So, I want to raise a glass of sweet tea, or maybe something a little stronger, if you're so inclined, to laughter, to the kind of laughter that bubbles up from your belly and makes your sides hurt, to the kind of laughter that brings a smile to your face, even on the cloudiest of days, to the kind of laughter that reminds you that life's too short to take things too seriously. Because when you can laugh at yourself and the world around you, well, that's when you know you're living life right. That's when you know you're embracing the true spirit of the South. Now, I ain't claiming to be a wise man, folks, but I have learned a thing or two over the years, mostly from listening to my elders and observing the world around me. And today I want to share some of those pearls of wisdom with y'all. First off, always remember that laughter is a universal language. It can bridge divides, heal wounds, and bring people together. So, share your laughter freely, folks. Spread it around like butter on a hot biscuit. Secondly, never underestimate the power of a good story. Stories have the ability to transport us to different places, introduce us to new people, and teach us valuable lessons. So gather around, folks, and let me tell you a story, or 2, or 10. Well, folks, it's time for me to sign off. But don't you fret, I'll be back next week with another round of Southern Fried news and hilarious happenings. In the meantime, keep your eyes peeled for those everyday moments of humor. You never know when a squirrel might decide to join your yoga class, or when a gator might decide to take up residence on your front porch. And remember, folks, if you see something funny, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Spread the laughter far and wide. Before I go, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to all y'all fine folks for tuning in to Marty Mar News. Your support means the world to this old boy. It brings me more joy than a possum in a pecan pie factory to know that I can bring a smile to your faces and a chuckle to your day. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And y'all come back now, you hear? We'll have a whole passel of fun next time. Well, folks, that's all she wrote for this week's edition of Marty Mar News. Remember to get her done and spread the laughter wherever you go. And as always, God bless y'all and God bless the South. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got a date with a plate of shrimp and grits and a big old glass of sweet tea. Y'all take care now and keep on laughing.